Imagine it is midnight. You are sitting in complete darkness. No phone, no lamp, no television, no electricity of any kind. The fire in front of you is the only light in the entire world. What do you actually do for the next 8 hours until sunrise? Because for over 90% of human history, this was every single night of every single human life. And what ancient humans did during those dark hours is one of the most surprising discoveries in modern science. Let us start with what most people assume. Most people think ancient humans simply went to sleep when the sun went down and woke up when it came back up. 12 hours of darkness equals 12 hours of sleep. Simple, logical, wrong. In 2015, a scientist named Jerome Siegel from UCLA published a study that changed everything we thought we knew about ancient sleep. His team studied 3 hunter-gatherer tribes that still live today without electricity in Tanzania, Namibia, and Bolivia. These are people living the closest lifestyle to our ancient ancestors that still exists on Earth. And what they found was shocking. These people did not go to sleep when the sun went down. They stayed awake for an average of 3 to 4 hours after sunset. They sat around the fire. They talked. They told stories. They performed rituals. They argued. They laughed. And then, somewhere between 9 and midnight, they finally went to sleep. Not because it was dark, but because the temperature dropped. Cold, not darkness, was the actual signal their bodies used to fall asleep. And here is where it gets even more interesting. They did not sleep for 8 hours straight like most modern humans try to do. They slept for around 6 to 7 hours total, and many of them woke up briefly in the middle of the night, stayed awake for 30 minutes to an hour, and then went back to sleep. Scientists call this biphasic sleep, and evidence suggests it was the natural human sleep pattern for most of our history. The idea of sleeping in one solid, uninterrupted 8-hour block is actually a modern invention, possibly caused by artificial lighting, tricking our brains into staying awake longer and compressing our natural sleep cycle. But what were they actually doing during those 3 to 4 hours of darkness before sleep? This is the part that most history books completely ignore. Fire was everything. The campfire was not just a source of heat and protection, it was the social center of ancient human life, and nowhere was this more true than at night. Anthropologists who have studied modern hunter-gatherer tribes found something remarkable. During the day, most conversations in these tribes were practical: who hunts where, what food was found, practical logistics of survival. But at night around the fire, the conversations changed completely. At night, around 60 to 80% of all conversation became storytelling. Stories about animals with human personalities. Stories about ancestors and spirits. Stories about the origins of the world. Stories about why the stars are where they are. These were not just entertainment. Researchers believe nighttime storytelling was one of the primary mechanisms by which ancient humans transmitted knowledge, moral codes, and social rules from one generation to the next. A child sitting by the fire at night listening to stories about how a selfish hunter was punished by the forest spirits was receiving a lesson in social behavior wrapped in narrative. The story was the law. The story was the school. The story was the religion. All at once, and the fire itself played a role that scientists are only beginning to understand. Staring into fire has a measurable effect on the human brain. Studies have shown that watching flames causes a drop in blood pressure and induces a light meditative state. One researcher named Christopher Lynn from the University of Alabama published findings suggesting that fire watching is deeply embedded in human neurology, possibly because our ancestors spent so many thousands of hours staring into flames that our brains evolved to find it calming. When you feel oddly relaxed, Staring into a candle or a fireplace today, that is not random. That is your ancient brain doing exactly what it was shaped to do over hundreds of thousands of years. Music was another major part of the night. Archaeological evidence shows that musical instruments exist as far back as 60,000 years ago. Flutes carved from bird bones and mammoth ivory have been found across Europe, and they were not decorations. Someone made them to be played. Researchers believe that communal singing, chanting, and rhythm were central to the nighttime social life of ancient humans. Music around the fire at night served multiple functions. It strengthened social bonds between tribe members. It coordinated breathing and heart rates across the group, creating a sense of physical unity. And in many cultures, it was believed to communicate with the spirit world or influence the outcome of the next day's hunt. There was also a more practical reason for staying awake and active for several hours after dark. Predators, large cats, hyenas, and other dangerous animals are primarily active at night. A tribe that fell asleep immediately at sunset was a tribe that was completely vulnerable. The fire kept most predators away, but someone always needed to remain aware. Researchers believe that the staggered sleep pattern of ancient tribes, where different members fell asleep and woke at slightly different times, was not accidental. It was a natural security system. At almost no point during the night was the entire tribe completely unconscious at the same time. There was almost always someone half awake, watching the fire, listening to the dark. Dreams also held enormous importance in ancient human culture. Across virtually every early human society ever studied, dreams were not seen as random brain noise the way many modern people view them. They were messages, instructions from ancestors, warnings about the future, visions of the spirit world. A hunter who dreamed about a specific animal the night before a hunt would take that seriously and adjust where he looked the next morning. A tribe elder who dreamed about a flood might move the entire camp based on that vision. Dreams were data, and the conversation around the fire in the morning often began with people sharing what they had dreamed, and the group interpreting those dreams together. And then there is something that almost no one talks about: sex. Ancient humans in small tribes had very little privacy. During the day, everyone was visible to everyone, but night and the relative darkness beyond the fire provided the only real privacy that existed. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer tribes note that nighttime was when most intimate activity between partners occurred, not because of romance, but because it was the only time the tribe's constant social visibility was reduced enough to allow it. So what does all of this tell us? The darkness of the ancient night was not empty time to be survived. It was some of the most important time in ancient human social life. The stories told around those fires became the myths and religions of every early civilization. The music played in the dark became the foundation of every musical tradition on Earth. The sleep pattern, shaped by cold temperatures and predator awareness, became the biological rhythms that still run quietly inside every human body today, including yours. The next time you cannot fall asleep at night, or you wake up at 2 in the morning and cannot get back to sleep immediately, do not panic. You are not broken. You are ancient. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do by hundreds of thousands of years of sitting around a fire in the dark, watching the flames, listening to stories, and waiting for the cold to finally pull you under. If this made you see your own nights differently, subscribe, because next time I am answering the question that everyone is too afraid to ask. Did ancient humans ever get completely and utterly lost? And what happened when they did? Trust me, the answer involves things that will make you grateful for Google Maps.